Well, hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. Normally, I'd introduce my guest, but this man needs absolutely no introduction whatsoever. We were just talking off air, and this could be myself and Mr. Bloom's first appearance together on either channel in maybe 3 years. He was talking about his daughter being born, and I don't think that was a thing when we were last chatting. So yeah, mate, it's been a long period of time, but an absolute pleasure to welcome you back onto the One Leeds fan channel. How are you doing, sir?
I'm lovely. And yeah, forget my daughter being born. You've probably had a Leeds promotion, a Leeds relegation, an Ipswich relegation, and 2 Ipswich promotions as well, probably in the time. But great time I always like this checkpoint, start of the transfer window, 20 games to go. I mean, you'll probably get it on your comments all the time, Conor. It's too early to say this. It's too early to say that. You literally get it the entire season. It's too early. But believe me, you get back 3-game week and you're looking at the end of the season is getting close.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how, I mean, we should have really, but it just seemed like such a crazy season in terms of Ipswich and Leeds last season, Ben. It was crazy. I mean, what a journey for Ipswich. I mean, let's just start on you guys. Unbelievable, mate. I mean, what a journey. Kieran McKenna. I was in Miami not long ago, and I actually spoke to your chairman at an expo.
I saw the clip. Yeah.
Really nice guy. Really nice guy. Did say to me, Leeds are falling apart again off camera. Then I whipped the camera out, started recording him, and he got all professional again. So I thought, yeah, I won't get that on camera. But it looked, mate, the project, I sat through an entire speech of his, and wow, what an exciting project at Ipswich. And you must be delighted, mate. It's stuff of ambition for Leeds United right now.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you had the similar thing with the Bielsa couple of years getting up there and then the ninth place finish. But it's weird in football sometimes when it happens fast, you don't get that much chance to appreciate it. And you witnessed it, I witnessed it last season. I do think people will talk in years to come when you're talking about freak unicorn seasons. They'll talk about Ipswich going from League One to beat those teams that they finished ahead of last season. I'll say no more. I don't want to bring the trauma back on.
No, definitely. It was a good run. It was a good run between us, and we're on the other side of it. I would be speaking to you in a different tone, Ben, if Leeds were languishing in maybe 10th position. But yeah. I've collated a bit of notes between us. Leeds United's journey so far, under Daniel Farke specifically. Obviously, you have experience with Farke in terms of rivalries, being down where you are and being a fan of the club that you're a fan of. Farke at Leeds United, do you think it is a match made in heaven going forward in terms of just Premier League venture, Ben, or do you think there's maybe a few bumps in the road to come?
Well, I'm a big fan, and I've been a big fan of Farke's obviously since that 2018-19 season that you guys were in the thick of as well, where Norwich came from absolutely nowhere. I think they finished 14th, maybe the season. In fact, someone checked me in the comments. 12th, 13th, and 14th were Ipswich, Leeds, and Norwich the season before, and then Ipswich were bottom, Norwich were top the next season, Leeds were third, obviously, weren't they? And I thought that was, I know he had Buendia and Pookie, but you've got to put a team together. And I really liked him. And then I suppose the question was, what is his ceiling? What can he do? Because I think even Norwich fans will admit that the size and scale of Leeds is bigger than Norwich. The opportunity is bigger if you can get them promoted. What can you do? I would defend Daniel Farke's record in the Premier League. I know a lot of Norwich fans are mixed on it, but supporting a team that's up there now and the impossible chasms between them, and unless you get, what Wilder did with Sheffield United or Bielsa, those big first seasons, and frankly, with all due respect, then what happened after that? Look, it fell.
Yeah.
So when he was appointed, and this was at pretty much exactly the same time as the takeover with the 49ers group was happening, I was like, I think that's a really sensible hire because he's won the title twice. He knows the league. he plays a style of football that, you know, the Leeds fans are going to be okay with. And, you know, it's not like you're bringing someone in who's going to clean sheet their way to the title or low block or set play their way to the... Nothing wrong with that, but the Leeds fans will not like that.
Scott Parker-esque.
Ellen Ray. Well, maybe we'll get onto him, Conor. I get the idea that he possibly should have got promoted last year, but I give him again. Your Ipswich was an absolute freak last season, and most other circumstances, I know I'll get comments saying, "Well, you either get promoted or you don't," and you can look at it through that binary. But here we are, and we are 20 games to go, and this guy just consistently knocks out 90 plus points in the championship. And you guys are top, 20 to go, and it's all looking good. I mean, you may have a view on what he could do at the top level with Leeds or with some investment, but I think it's such a safe pair of hands for a team expecting to be in the title race. What's your take?
Yeah, to be honest, Ben, I mean, I mentioned on a video a little bit earlier that he's doing a decent job. I think the ultimate aim for 2 years now was that, you know, Leeds United been relegated is promotion. It doesn't necessarily have to be a title win. He doesn't have to replicate maybe an advantage he had at the top of the table when it came to Norwich, because, you know, it was completely different time, completely different standard, completely different squad complexion. But for me, the ultimate aim with ambitious owners is to be in the Premier League, and that's his target. And, you know, we'll get onto a few other bits in the video which might narrow that target if he keeps doing certain things. But I think right now he's doing a decent job, mate. He's well on course. And I was mentioning this a little bit earlier on. The 22nd of December, we were second, 3 points behind Sheffield United, who at that stage seemed to be doing, you know, it felt like it was turning a little bit, didn't it, Ben? They were sort of winning pretty much every single game, home and away, with the odd dropping of points. You know, we are on the 8th of Jan, I think now it is 7th, 8th of Jan. Am I right? Yep, 7th of Jan. And we are top after a little bit of a bump in the road. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now. We have reversed that, and Leeds are top of the table. It has just been a little bit of doom and gloom since the weekend, but I guess that's the general picture, mate.
Well, then I managed to pull a little short out of something I was doing the other day. There are other metrics here. Leeds are top for goals per game. They're top for average possession. They're top for expected goals. They're top for shots on target. They're top for big chances created. Second for big chances. How Coventry top for big chances missed? They're top for accurate passes completed per match, second for touches in the opposition box, top for corners. There's just so much of this that tracks. I know you can have that reductive argument. Are they top of the league? How many points have they got? Yeah. But there's more goes into it, and there's a lot of, it's a lot of horrible business term like key performance indicators that say they're the best side in the division.
Yeah, 100%. So I think we're both in agreement right now that it's, you know,
top for goalkeeper mistakes, John says in the chat.
Well, look, let's get into it. I know you are a favourite of the Leeds United fans as well, Ben, which you've acclimatized well to. So there's a lot of people in the chat saying welcome, Ben, which is nice to see on the channel as well. And you might give me a little bit of rebuttal here, mate. I'd be stunned if you did, but I know Benjamin Bloom is a very positive person. So, yeah, Illan Meslier, it feels like you've been reeling off those statistics, and I feel like if you go to the metrics on FootMob, maybe of goalkeeping statistics, there'll be a bit of a chasm between maybe, you know, maybe that top performance and the lower league performance when it comes to a goalkeeper. Ben, from an outsider's perspective, I think some of the mistakes, I think some of the continuity which Leeds fans have had with Illan Meslier is resurfacing again. It's definitely resurfaced at the weekend. Sunderland was a gut punch with what happened up there as well, against, you know, top of the table at that moment in time, not been beaten I think it was a year before at home, and we went up there. We did really, really well, and we came away nearly with the winner if it wasn't for Illan Meslier. It happened again. How many more times can these things happen, mate? And us just putting the blame on the goalkeeper, in your opinion?
Well, so smarten me up here, Conor. My memory is there was a problem in the Premier League as well, where I think we had a conversation on the Blue Monday podcast that in the season where you guys went down, basically the three if you track the XG, the three, and whether you want to do that or not is up to you. Let's not have that argument. But the three goalkeepers of the teams that went down all like grossly underperformed and
massively
should have saved more. And then I think there was a bit of a back and forth, and you'll know more about this than me. At the start of last season, are they going to change the goalkeeper? Was Carl Darlow even brought in as, okay, he's the goalkeeper, you know, he's experienced and he knows his way around. And then obviously Meslier comes in and plays last season. I don't recall it being quite so bad last season. I don't recall the big rickets that we've had this season. Obviously, the Sunderland one is gargantuan and horrible, and the significance of it, and just about the worst it can be for a keeper, isn't it? Yeah, top of the table clash, last second of the game, and obviously it results in a goal. And 9 football fans out of 10 will say, "Okay, it happens." You know, if you're a keeper, that you know you get bits and bobs like that, but then there's been 2 or 3 more since, hasn't there? So I don't know whether it's all psychological. And what I will say is I think goalkeeper is the hardest position for us football fans to understand and the hardest position for us pundity people to analyse because there's so little information. There's only, there's 20 outfield players in per game and 2 keepers. And the standard of judging a keeper is different than ever. It's very, very tricky to judge. And I remember someone explaining to me really beautifully, Conor, once, who's the better keeper, keeper A or keeper B? And keeper A tips one over the bar from the top corner, but keeper B was talking to his defence for the whole move, had them positioned properly, and the shot didn't even happen. But yet, if you're watching the game, you think keeper A is better because he made the save. We don't know any of this stuff. I'm trying to defend him, but it's tricky, isn't it? Let me flip this into a question to you. Can you replace your keeper halfway through the season when you're top of the league? If you do that, is he completely finished, done? And can you find someone in a January transfer window who can go? I mean, you lot are an intense bunch who can cope with playing in that stadium, in that.
Yeah.
I'll answer those questions because I think you have a negative perception of the keeper possibly staying, if I'm right.
Yeah, I don't know what gives you that impression, mate. But yeah, just going back to what you were saying about the Premier League, we've got a data collection guy on Twitter who's excellent, Chris Taylor, LUFC Data. And obviously you're very aware, aren't you, Ben, about goals prevented? I think it's a really good metric when you're looking at goalkeepers because obviously
I think it is a good one. Yeah,
and it individualizes obviously what we're talking about. Last season, he was ranked. It was 18th. And then this season he's currently 17th. The save percentage is in the mid 60s, and over the past 5 seasons he's at a -40 for goals prevented, which is quite damning numbers. So yeah, I think just reverting back to what you were saying, can Leeds United do something? I think, to be honest, Ben, I think it's a position of which it's the last line of defense. It's a critical position, and there's a lot of pressure on it. There's a lot of pressure on strikers, but there's a hell of a lot of pressure on goalkeepers. I think the frustration, what we've seen, Ben, is some of the goalkeepers of which we've seen go for very, very good value in the summer. You're looking at Michael Cooper going to Sheffield United for £2 million, who I genuinely believe is maybe going to be in the England setup at some stage. I think he's a fabulous goalkeeper, confident, ego, decision-making, commanding. He's a captain.
I think he's Welsh, Conor, isn't he?
Is he Welsh? There you go.
Yeah.
You've killed me there. Well, Welsh.
No, I haven't.
Welsh keeper.
I just did it before the comments did.
There you go. No, you've helped me out there, mate. But it'll definitely be He might even be Wales' #1 right now, but I think it's Carl Darlow, isn't it? Which is quite an interesting conversation. But yeah, we know Trafford's up there, don't we, as well?
No, he's English. No, you're right, mate. It says he's English on here. My bad.
Right,
sorry.
Okay. Yeah, Michael Cooper, it could have gone either way, couldn't it? But yeah, Cooper, it just feels like he's a top keeper at this level. We know as well that Victor Johansson went from Rotherham to Stoke for £1 million, and it just feels that the goalkeeper position out there, you can definitely get cheaper equivalents. We know there's loans at the Premier League level as well. I just think there's opportunities out there, Ben. I still look at Carl Rushworth, and I know he's been through an injury, but Brighton, I think, are definitely going to recall him in the top 5, real 5-10% when it came to goalkeepers last season. Brighton are looking at loaning him out again. I look at someone like him, Luke Steele, who builds out from the back as a goalkeeper, 34 years of age in that Brighton setup. Can you go out and do something? I just think there's keepers out there who can really improve this setup. And Ben, you've just listed off to yourself, mate. To us, sorry, I should say, and everybody watching, all the metrics. It just feels the one between the sticks. When that's improved, Leeds are on. It's not an easy street as such, but Leeds are hopefully walking towards that championship title.
Well, it doesn't help, like you mentioned, that Cooper and Trafford as well is playing really well for. I know he cost a small fortune, didn't he? The one thing I've just always thought when observing Daniel Farke is he is massive on continuity. If Daniel Farke could change the rules so you could just have 11 players, everyone had 11 players, and you just rode the same team all season, which I just would find it hard to imagine him. I would think the conversations he'd be having with the upstairs people is, I can still get promoted with him. If you want to change him, we'll change him at the end of the season. I want to keep the continuity. Do you know what I mean? This kind of yin and yang of, is it a bigger weakness to go with a keeper that has made a couple of mistakes, but has, I think it said 14 clean sheets for Leeds this season. So, functional. Very functional team. I could be wrong about that.
No, you are. I clean sheets for me.
I know, but it's the sign of a team that's functioning pretty well in a defensive point. I know the chances conceded are probably more accurate, or XGs against, or what have you. With the risk of messing with that, whereas you could bring someone in and go. Don't get me wrong, you could bring. Years ago, Ipswich had a keeper called Andy Marshall, who they signed from Norwich, and it was a big controversy at the time. I know your viewers are probably thinking, who cares? But it's a big deal at Ipswich, and he just couldn't get his mind together. And Joe Royle came in as the manager and signed Paul Gerrard, who he had at Everton and Oldham, and he was like 35 or something. And he just stuck him in, and everything just cleaned up immediately because you just hadn't experienced.
Isn't it
can work like that. It's not the technical keeper, the one who can ping it out to the left wing. It's just, can you get a guy who's got authority and gravitas?
Ben, that's it. You've got currently. Look, you've been a championship guru for years, and we've had the unfortunate stance of being in the championship for most of my life. I'm 31, but it is what it is. That's what we've got to right now, which is very depressing, being a Leeds fan. However, we know what the championship's all about, and it feels like if you've just got someone between the sticks who, look, someone like Carl Darlow, who's a second keeper, who was brought in to be that second keeper, you brought in with that role. In that role, if there's an injury, if there's someone out of form, it's based on a meritocracy. It feels like the system we're in at Leeds United right now. If you're playing well, you stay in. Solomon over Amazani right now, other players, over certain others as well. It feels like right now, if it is based on that, the goalkeeper simply has to be dropped with what's happened the other day. And Carl Darlow, who's still playing for the Welsh national side, he's got, if we do go on clean sheets, he's got 2 out of 3. I think he's got 2 man of the matches for the Welsh national side without playing a lot domestically. From an outside perspective, you've just mentioned right there examples from Ipswich Town and Paul Gerrard. Does it feel like this is the moment right now, even from an outsider's perspective, when looking at Leeds United, that this has to happen, not just from Farke's standpoint and Leeds' standpoint, but for the mental health, really, of Ilan Meslier?
It'd be a big call. Would be a really, really big call, wouldn't it? And I guess you'd have to do it now, wouldn't you, with the Cup third round? Unless, and this doesn't feel like very leadership quality type thing, but you could give Darlow the shirt for that. Who have you got in the Cup?
Lovely Harrogate Town.
Oh, great. Okay. So stick Darlow in for that, and kind of the shirt is up for grabs, and you see what you're giving him a break, and do you think if Carl Darlow had like just a good game against Harrogate, you're looking at Farke, and Farke might just think, oh well, he's had a good game there. He starts versus Sheffield Wednesday at home. I know. Look, Ben, we're trying to sort of pivot here, and well, I am anyway, and shoehorn Carl Darlow somehow in that side, but it doesn't feel like
like you've just quite rightly said, continuity is a big thing for Daniel Farke. I'm wishing something here, and I think the Leeds fans are, but it's just simply not going to happen, is it?
It's a horrible situation because if you do then switch the keepers, all eyes are on the new keeper, who has to then be pretty much perfect for at least the first couple of games. But
it's true.
It'll be fascinating. I personally, and I'll come on here and say I got it wrong. I would be more surprised if he chopped Melié's legs off and brought someone in than if he just kept with. I think he'll think he can get top two with him.
Interesting. Let us know in the chat, everybody, what you think.
I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm
no,
saying
exactly.
I think he would.
Yes, and I think that's. Well, what do you think is the right thing to do then? Because you go in the party line here. What do you think is the right thing to do?
Oh God, it depends who's available. I've got to admit, if there was the really experienced guy and it was a loan, because you could sell that to Meslier of, look, I just need 20 games from this guy and we'll pick this up close season. You know, it's a tough moment, etc., etc. But then I'm a nice guy. I'm not a brutal, ruthless, horrible football manager who decides what happens to people's livelihoods. But
I'd say you've only switched into a nice guy when you got into the Premier League, but you've always been a nice guy, so it's hard for me to make that case.
Well, the chat, I'm reading the chat here, is pretty much unanimous that your fans would like to see something different.
Do you know what, Ben? It's probably been the biggest turn I've seen in Leeds fans. I mentioned it on a video the other day, but I've never seen, you know what it can be like in the fan base. I'm sure it's similar with Ipswich, and you do general championship content as well. But with Leeds, I've never seen this sort of switch like we have done now. It's been sort of 4 or 5 years now, Ben. We've got enough of a case profile on the goalkeeper right now, and I think Leeds fans are just like, look, this season we're okay. We'll back everything that's going on as long as we get to the Premier League. And I think there's just a few nerves there now that this is narrowing, and the goalkeeper's showing no improvement trajectory-wise. So I think that's a little bit of the worry right now with Leeds. And we've not exactly got a rap sheet of good goalkeepers over the past 10 to 15 years, Ben, either. So.
Let me just close this out, Conor. The silly thing, which probably answers the question indirectly, is if you get promoted with him, they'll probably upgrade him. If you don't get promoted, they'll bomb him out. So it's kind of like, that probably says a lot, doesn't it? That he's probably not going to be the keeper next season, whatever happens. The only way he's the keeper next season is if you get promoted with him and he's amazing for the last 20 games and plays an absolute blinder. But yeah, it doesn't feel good, does it?
It doesn't. A positive this season has probably been Brendan Aronson in that central attacking midfield role. We obviously lost Jorginho Rutter to Brighton, and then at that moment in time, Aronson was playing on the left. He came in centrally and has performed quite well, to be honest, Ben. If we're just looking at the statistics, 7 goals, 3 assists, and when you look at that as a rap sheet, I mean, Rutter got 6 goals last season, but Rutter was
he was chaos, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm getting a bit that it really upsets me when Leeds fans compare Aronson to Rutter, because Rutter was just brilliant. But listen, horses for courses and all that. But Aronson's come in and he's done really well. It feels like we're a little bit light in that central attacking midfield position. Do you think Leeds maybe need to do something there, Ben, or are you sort of like assured that Leeds can sort of stick with that and maybe meander in around that?
No, I think it's absolutely fine, isn't it? And it's interesting your Rutter Aronson kind of paradigm, because there's almost a sense, even though you take away the kind of stardust and the chaos, you have better balance as a team when you don't have that player who it's like, right, because it was a bit like that with him and Somerville, wasn't it? That you probably won a fair few moments in games last year. Look, just get the ball to those two. They're going to make something happen. Whereas you get a little bit more balance. I know the front four last year scored tons of goals as well, so that's not really changed. But I don't know, Solomon, Aronson, James, Piru. I know you like Joseph, you were saying, but I would suggest that there's the goalkeeper issue, and essentially you've done this entire season and last season maybe without right, here's your go-to goal scorer number 9 fella as well, but there's even less chance of a top of the table championship ready number 9 being available in January than there is of a experienced keeper, isn't there? What's your take on the number 10 spot?
The number 10 spot, I'd say, Ben. I think, look, we've been picking names out of there. I think when it comes to potential transfers, I think it's interesting. It's a tough position to do. I think if there's an order of which I think is a simple, if you've just got a hit list of what you can do, I think a goalkeeper is relatively simple in terms of transfer fee or a loan fee going out and getting a player. I think a 9 and a 10 are very, very difficult. I think there's always competition. If you try to look for a loan, there might be 15 clubs looking at the same player. I feel every time we're looking at someone in the forward range, there is Sheffield United and Burnley also looking at that player, especially if it's domestic, it feels like anyway. So I think it would be difficult for Leeds to go for the 10. I think, personally, Ben, I think we've still got a lot in-house. I think you've got attributes when it comes to Willian Yonto, and I think you've got attributes when it comes to Manor Solomon that would work in that central attacking midfield role. I've sort of kiboshed on this channel previously that the notion that, if you play out wide, you can't work in that central attacking midfield role. I think that's nonsense. I think if you've got the attributes to to play in that role in terms of vision, good shot efficiency, good on the half turn, I think you can fit in the central attacking midfield role pretty nicely, and you're more involved in the game. So I think we've got enough in-house for that central attacking midfield role. I think we've got enough in-house as well for that number 9 role. I wouldn't mind us adding, of course, because you want the most players possible, don't you, to get you out of the division. But I think there's firmly one position I would be looking at this window, to be honest.
I think as well, Conor, the way it's gone with 4-2-3-1s and one up front, the number 10 position isn't as important as it was. And if you remember when Farke was at Norwich, he literally converted a fullback, a guy called Marco Stiepermann, played at number 10, who was, he was good with his feet, was a big bloke, was a bit chaotic. He just basically had to rotate and stay there and give it to Buendia.
He's brilliant, wasn't he? He's brilliant.
Yeah. And often it's not the days of, like where I'm old enough to remember Peter Beardsley or Paul Merson or whatever, where they were the one that just, if you stop them, you stop the entire attacking kind of, sort of thrust of a team, really. So, if Nonto, Ramazani, Solomon and James are all going to score 5 to 8 goals each between now and the end of the season, Aronson's absolutely fine at 10, isn't he?
Yeah, it does feel like that, mate. Maybe we've just been a bit too picky. Who knows, Ben? Maybe we've just been a bit too picky. You're top of the league,
boss.
We just need to get out, mate. Just get out. I think there's the old listen. We all panic as well, Ben, because there's the whole Leeds are falling apart again notion. And look, we've seen these movies before, and I'm saying movies, not movie. Just get us out of this place. So yeah, no, I think the complication of going for a number 10. I think
Tanaka not play 10.
I think he could. Yeah, I think he could. What I'd love to see with him is a 4-3-3, Ben, and I'd love to see Rothwell in the 8 alongside him.
Ain't happening with Farke, mate.
Never happening.
Never.
Ironically, the only time we've done it was away at Norwich in the playoffs. I went to a 4-3-3, and I've never seen him do it ever since, to be honest with you.
How was that game? Yeah.
He went to a 4-3-3 and nothing happened. That must have been the worst game for you to go to. Just nothing happened.
Mate. And as soon as you shut it down to 0-0, you knew you were going to win the second leg at home.
Yeah, that's what we went for, I think, to be fair to him. So yeah, I mean, I guess on the squad depth right now, it's interesting, isn't it, Ben? Because we kind of look at it from I get Sheffield United fans on here. I'm sure you're aware of Sheffield United fans on your channel as well, and Sunderland not so much, and Burnley fans not so much, to be honest. It's mostly Sheffield United fans who come on here and are saying, we're quite arrogant as Leeds fans, and I try to be a little bit more middle grounded and as have a lack of bias, really. But I would say when you're looking at the plethora of options that we've got going forward, Nonto, James, Joseph, the Ramazani, the list goes on, Solomon, you're kind of looking at that and thinking it's Premier League ready in a sense. Do you look from afar and think Leeds United's attacking potency is just one of sort of the best in terms of range of options that you've seen at Championship level before?
Well, just as a general point, I think year 2 parachute teams tend to have less star power than year 1 parachute teams, but more balance. Because like you found last season, you come down and you've got some players that are worth a hell of a lot of money, and you don't know which ones are going to be sold. They're probably going to be sold at the end of August. You've got utterly no chance of replacing them, with FFP and with, the financial cliff edge. So you almost have more balance when you're in year 2. And I think when you look at Sheffield United and Burnley, Luton are a different kettle of fish because they essentially bought one player for £5 million, gambled on Ross Barkley, and it worked. And that was that. But Burnley and Sheffield United, you didn't know who was going to be sold right until the end of August. Same with you guys and Sinistera and even Aronson and Verber to a point last season. Farke has managed to kind of work them back in. So, yes, Burnley, you'd like Ahmed Hodzic from Sheffield United or a Gus Harmer would fit in nicely. They have that star power. And Burnley have got the French lad, Esteve, who's going to be worth an absolute fortune. The centre half. Trafford's a 25 million quid goalkeeper. But I don't know. I like the balance of Leeds' side there. And you'll probably compare it to last season, and you're trading out 2 great players in Somerville and Ruter, but you have Grueff for the whole campaign with Ampadu in central midfield. You have Rodon permanently, which is important. You actually have some full. Ever since I've been on YouTube, Leeds have never had any fullbacks. Like forever. It's like Stuart Dallas and what was the mad guy called? Alioski?
We'd have Berardi there as well, another mad guy.
Exactly, who was a winger, So there's a bit more balance at fullback now, and it's nicely stocked in the 3 off the front. It's light up front, but I think Farke thought he would get 20 games out of Bamford, maybe more fool he for thinking that. But I prefer the balance. Do you take my point? There might be more star power in those other year 1 parachute squads, but I think the Leeds one's got more balance.
Well, I think you're right about that first year as well. You look at Sheffield United; they've had a bit of an up and down. I think there's about 15 or 20 players, haven't they, who they've lost this season. Leeds had the same last year. We had all those loan clauses. Do you remember, Ben, where they could all leave pretty much, and we were patching up the squad really till the back end of the window. Then Sinistera went right at the end, didn't he? When none of us thought he would go. It was
after ripping Ipswich a new one in his last game.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous team. That it was Sinistera, Somerville, Rutter. It was and Peru. Yeah, that was
Peru's debut. Yeah, that was a bit scary.
But I distinctly remember Ipswich being so good in that game in terms of like the sort of last 50 minutes. You could see the system, like the press was so good, the rotations were so good. But Leeds just had this period.
Do you remember Cody Drammer came on and then got stubbed off again 10 minutes later, poor fella, didn't he?
I just remember we had about a 15-minute spell, though, with that front four where we could have scored about 7. It was ridiculous.
Mate, it was horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah, but your guys' system was, you could see it at the end, grind. There's another one who I'd very much welcome, Ben, if you wanted to let him go. I mean, Conor Chaplin, he would be a lovely addition right now. He'd be I
tell you who'd be great for you that we've got is Broadhead. He came in our League One season and just made the difference. But those players are going to be available. There's going to be loan players, and with all due respect, who aren't playing in the Premier League who can make a difference. But kind of you've isolated goalkeeper and striker, and I totally agree with you. Yeah. They're not the positions you want to be changing in January, are you?
Not ideal. Should we have let Leif Davis go? Was that a good move?
It's a terrible move, wasn't it? But
you never to know, I guess. Hindsight's a wonderful thing.
No, and that would have been Bielsa, wouldn't it?
It was, yeah.
Wow, there you go. Even geniuses can make mistakes, eh?
Yeah, he just doesn't like left-footed left backs. That's what I figured out.
Much rather play Stuart Dallas there.
Yeah. Even Alioski, there's no way he was a left back. I'm not having it. But I mean, I guess it's the promotion race is interesting, Ben. I wanted to get onto this with you as well. How are you seeing it shaping up? I mean, I'm sort of looking right now. If I'm being brutally honest with you, as I say, I try to be as least biased as I can when it comes to Leeds United. I think I'm probably a little bit more critical at points than I should be. But it's your own team, isn't it? Sometimes you think they should be at a certain level, which they never will be at championship level. But look, Burnley, I quite like their squad right now. I quite like what Parker's done. I think he's really turned it around in terms of what he's been able to get from certain individuals. Sarmiento's back into the fold now. Ramsey's coming
He's
back.
still my beating heart.
Oh, I bet. Oh God. Yeah, I can't stand that guy. No joking. He just yeah. What did he say when they got a win at Ellen Road? And he said, "Just put the L in Ellen Road." And they beat Blackburn the other day. Just put the W into Ewood Park. And I'm like, oh, shut up.
Oh.
But yeah, he loves it on social media. But yeah, it's Sarmiento's obviously back in the fold now. Bayer, obviously, we know at championship level was very, very good for that company side. Benson as well. Manuel Benson's coming back soon. They've got a decent bench still. Ekdal, Barnes, Rodriguez. I see their sort of complexion right now is very good. 9 goals conceded is, I mean, Ben, we've got to talk. I mean, I mean, someone mentioned it on one of the shows I was doing last night. They're conceding 1 goal every 3 games on average. It's ridiculous. So Sheffield United, on the other hand, just seem to be getting the job done. It feels like even when they've gone through a little bit of a bump, haven't they? Bren Brereton Diaz is supposedly coming in. They've still got a good starting 11, in my opinion. You look at that forward line when you've got Raksaki, Hamer, Callum O'Hare, Brewster, Kiefer Moore, Tyrese Campbell. It's a very, very good front line. How do you see it at the minute? How do you see the picture? You've mentioned Leeds being a balanced side. Maybe the other side's going through a little bit of tumultuous times at the beginning of the season. Where do you see the land lie? And try not to be biased towards Leeds United, eh?
Well, I predicted Leeds first, but I predicted Leeds first last season as well. So I'm right at the moment. I know Sheffield United fans would argue that on points per game, they have 0.03 more than Leeds, and the points deduction is keeping them second. But hey, the points deduction will be the difference. If it comes down to it at the end of the season. I mean, the good thing is, in very simple terms, you can narrow it down to 4 already, because there is literally a 9-point gap between Middlesbrough and Sunderland. Fair play, Sunderland, for keeping pace. I know we had Ipswich keeping up.
Oh, well, sorry, that's very arrogant of me, mate. We need to mention Sunderland as well. We'll do that.
They've been amazing. Yeah, and
brilliant.
Yeah. And when you consider how crap they were for the last half of last season, tailing off, and they sold Jack Clark, and their squad's really young, and they had a new manager, they've done absolutely superbly. And I said on a video the other day, Conor, if you're Sunderland, just keep in touch until Easter and see what you can do. Keep in touch. I know the 3 teams above have got stronger squads and are more likely to do it. My take on this would be that Sheffield United are the closest to capacity. Their car is running at the highest revs, and it's a nice looking motor, but it's the one that could have a problem. And I think he's done brilliantly actually. Wilder. I mean, when you talk about Leeds' balance, the stability at Leeds compared to, like you said, the 15 players in and out, and I know. Look, all fans, when you mention injuries, I know you guys had literally your central midfield just gone for 2 months. Sheffield United have had some gnarly injury issues at the minute, 2 in the same place, then 2 in a different 2 in the same place in the team, etc. So I think Sheffield United are closest to capacity. I agree with you that Burnley is just extraordinary, the defensive numbers, because I always thought Scott Parker's teams are very methodical, not necessarily, they're not sitting behind the ball. And, it's not Mick McCarthy, every point's a prisoner football. It's keep the ball.
They're not entertaining to watch, are they, at all, Ben? But it doesn't matter, does it?
Probably agree on both counts. Yeah. Just get it done. But it just continues the enigma that Scott Parker, who's continually at the top of the championship with decent teams, and we're just confused. Is he any good or not? Like, this could be like a third championship promotion, which would intimate he must be good, because only Daniel Farke can keep up with that level of success.
We need to give him like a mid-team like Norwich or something, don't we, Ben?
Well, yeah, proof's in the pudding, isn't it? But in the reality we live in, Conor, he's only ever managed parachute teams, which is a lovely gig if you can get it, isn't it?
True.
So I would think that the way it's set up right now, there's a very high chance it could finish like that, couldn't it? If Sheffield United get automatic promotion ahead of either Leeds or Burnley, I think that's a surprise. I think that's a great performance by Wilder. I think Leeds and Burnley a better setup. But it's beautifully poised, isn't it? If you were to say Sheffield United have scored 54 points this season, you've got 54, 53, 52, or you've got 53, 52, 52, and all of the teams are 2 points per game and above. But if I was going to change my predictions, do you know, I think did I have Burnley second or did I have them lower down? I can't remember who I had second. I definitely had Leeds. Do you know, I might got top 2 in the right position. Someone will correct me in the chat if they're a watcher of my channel. But would you be surprised if it finished Leeds 1, Burnley 2, Sheffield United 3, Sunderland 4? Would you be surprised?
Would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't. I think we've had a little bit of a blip, haven't we? We've had a little bit of a blip, but you're right, Ben, with the underlying numbers, we're top of a lot of the statistics, well, the majority of the statistics right now, so that's going to average itself out. These are them. I think a lot of it's now on marginal gains. I think our goal difference it almost acts as an extra point. I think that's massive. I think having the best goal difference in the division, because I think it is going to be that tight. But the throwaway points, Ben, and that's why I keep mentioning the GK and how good he is in comparison to Cooper
Conor,
and Trafford, I guess.
What are the head-to-head away games remaining? You've got to go to Burnley and Sheffield United, is that right? But you've already played Sunderland. Have you played at Middlesbrough yet?
We've not played at Middlesbrough, so we've got Middlesbrough away. We've still got Sunderland at home, and then we've got Burnley and Sheffield United away. So yeah, we've probably, I'd say, yeah, we probably got the trickier when it comes to that aspect of it, really. The interesting thing is, Ben, is I was looking at this. I was doing a video the other day, and the interesting aspect of this, and I'm just gonna. This is quite impromptu, Ben. I've sent you a bit of a show reel, and this isn't on it, so I'm just gonna flash up this fixture list. Now, the interesting point was I'd not considered this, but I guess what you've kind of got to do is look at the last 5 games, haven't you, as well, Ben? Because we kind of look at the games ahead right now. But if all teams can stay within contact, and then you have a look at the last 5 games,
it's quite nice for you guys, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you look at it. I'll just flash it on screen now. Leeds is, and this is, sorry, I've got a different Battle Lines is tomorrow, but there we go. But yeah, if you just look at the Leeds United fixtures here, the last 5, which I think is really important. You've got Preston at home, Oxford away, Stoke at home, Bristol City at home, and Plymouth away. To be honest, Ben, I don't think you could ask for more favourable fixtures. Obviously, we know the ones above are a little bit trickier, of course. But that last 5, if you're within contact, which I expect Leeds to be, it's not a bad last 5, is it, mate?
It isn't. I'm just looking. Are you away twice on the Easter double header? That doesn't seem fair, does it? 5th of April, and is that the Easter, the Friday and the Monday? You want at least Friday, a home game there, Friday, but Monday. Yeah, these are the marginal gains you start to look at. And if you go a bit further up, Conor, you've also got Sunderland and Sheffield United back to back in February, which is going to be absolutely key. The game against Burnley always at the end of January. That's going to be absolutely fascinating. But it sounds oversimplistic. It's a 46 game season, and you get your 2 points per game however you see fit. Do you know what I mean? If that's losing 1 and winning 2, you just got to keep that ticking over. So it'll be fascinating, and Leeds are not going to finish outside the top 4. That feels mathematically so unlikely already.
Well, it's interesting, Ben, isn't it? Andy's a Burnley fan. He says Burnley played all the top 4 away and Borough twice. The interesting thing, Andy, is, but the interesting thing when it comes to Burnley is they're better away from home than they are at home, aren't they? So I guess that's the conversation. Burnley are better away from home.
Conor as well. People say this to me every Easter. They always say what you don't want is away games at teams scrapping for survival as well. It all changes. You want the teams in the middle when it gets to so we don't know. I mean, you'd assume Plymouth's a nice dead rubber at the end of the season, but you don't know what Oxford and Stoke are going to be like at that point. Are they going to be absolutely scrapping like Blackburn were at the end of last season? They went to Ellen Road and got a surprise win, and QPR as well.
Yeah, QPR. Yeah, that was fun. last season. Yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, I mean, Brett says, do you guys think we need to sign a striker in January, or can we go with the current squad? And I mean, I know Ben was doing a bit of number crunching on Peru, and obviously Joseph as well. You know, I think we're okay, number 9. I think we're okay with those two battling it out. I don't think there's any problem there. What are your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, Peru's okay. I don't want to contradict what I've just said, that it's a 46 game season. Peru, you would like to have for the 46 games, but maybe in big head to head games, I don't know. Is he your solution? Because I think, did you use he kind of ticks along, doesn't he? And you know the goals.
Yeah.
Does he tend to score in the big games?
Oh, it's a good question. You
Or
tested
does
my
he
memory
punish
now.
the lower lights?
Yeah, he scored against Sunderland away
Yes,
from
he
home.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, Sheffield United, I don't think he did. Yeah, it's very obviously Burnley he didn't, because Burnley just don't concede goals. But yeah, I think the thing is there's a bit of a phrase when it comes to him, Ben. It's peronymous, and sometimes he is a little bit in and out of games. I mean, there was a sort of a 5 away game period where you just didn't notice him. He didn't get a goal or an assist, but you didn't even notice he was on the pitch. And I think that's kind of the only problem with Peru. I think he's don't get me wrong, his numbers are decent, but there are clusters of games of which he does. Probably like remember back in the day when me and you used to speak about Jack Harrison, and he'd cluster a little bit, but then he'd go absent from games for periods of time. It's probably quite similar to that. But I mean, right now on the statistics ranking, I think he's 3rd, 4th top scorer in the division.
Is it I'm not sticking the boot in, Connor. Is it a bit of a net fail when you want to spend that money at the start of last season? There's your goals sorted. And the fact that he's in and out of the team is a problem, isn't it? You want that investment to have been, like I don't know if probably bloody Kiefer Moore for Sheffield United, but who's a better example? Latte Lath at Middlesbrough. If Middlesbrough are playing a big game tomorrow, he's starting up front and he's not being substituted. Madger for West Brom. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like Isidore Sunderland starting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it does. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Actually, it's something I'd not considered before. It is I mean, we look back to last season when you guys were in the race as well. Around about January period, he got rid of him, and he's still scoring goals, but he got rid of him and put Bamford in. You know, there is just something with Peru which doesn't quite line up, and I think it maybe is the off the ball work of which Daniel Farke puts a lot of onus on, and we saw that with Timu Pukki, didn't we? It was the on and off the ball work, which was just sublime.
You'd already be promoted by now if you had Timu Pukki.
Oh man! Oh yeah! Wow! Yeah, what I'd do for that. I mean, Tim said, "Evening, pal. Going late, so we'll scroll back from the start in the truck on the way down to Leon." Shout
Keep
out
up
to
the
you.
great work, Tim.
Yeah. Well done, Tim. It's like you always forget sometimes, don't you, Ben, when people are on long journeys and they're just putting your show on, and it gives you a bit of pride, really, doesn't it?
Sometimes they're on the treadmill listeing to you, Connor. They're walking the
What are you
dog,
doing?
doing the washing up, and they've got you in their ears, matey. It's lovely.
I think that's where I was listening to you on the treadmill actually when you said that it's impossible to sort of bridge the gap this moment in time to the Premier League.
Did you get really angry and knock it up?
No, I completely.
Maximum,
Well, I tell you what, that's quite a nice like little segue there, Ben. You were talking about the bridge to the Premier League, and this can be for Sunderland, Sheffield United, Burnley fans as well. The bridge to the Premier League is interesting right now because when we were up there, it obviously we went up and did what Sheffield United did the year before. We blitzed it, and we took our hide-ins, but we also gave out a lot of hide-ins as well. And Leeds did something which it doesn't feel like many clubs would do right now. I mean, just talk about the evolution, I guess, of the Premier League to what it is now. And you look at what Ipswich have done in terms of the investment that they've put in, and they've made some really smart additions. But is it just getting to that point right now where you look at your Brentford, you look at your Wolves, and you look at your Crystal Palaces and just say, there's a team full of internationals there. There's internationals on the bench. The bench is unbelievable. They're able to buy players for 20 million quid. I mean, I've just seen that. Crystal Palace are interested in Romain Esse at Millwall. He's probably just going to go and sit on the bench with being one of the hottest prospects in this division. What's the gap now, Ben? And obviously you did a video on that. And how gargantuan is that right now?
Gargantuan is a good word. Probably I agree with everything you just said, other than the word evolution, because it feels like it's devolved a little bit. Because when you get promoted to the Premier League, you should have a chance of succeeding. And look, there's different ways of approaching it, and what's very interesting now is that the team that went up and just went, well, this is a nightmare. It's really difficult. We're just going to break the spending rules is Forest.
And minus, was it -2 points they got as well? Was that all it was? It was something like that.
Smart if they'd that all factored in, and they're doing great. Everyone points at Brighton and Brentford, which is lovely if you can have both had independently, plucky little Brighton and plucky little Brentford, independently wealthy Tony Bloom and Matthew Benham. Don't get me wrong, brilliant, but they had money as well. And they very, very steadily built over probably 5 years at the top of the championship to go up stable, right? If you're Leeds and you hire a mad Argentinian bloke and get promoted out of nowhere in 2 seasons with Luke Ayling and, Berardi and whoever,
Just lightning in a bottle, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just lightning in the bottle.
That makes it very hard. Let me raise that. If you're in League One and you get a double promotion... Right. And it's what's even more ridiculous. And I'm repeating the stuff that's on that video you mentioned. But even when you compare to Southampton and Leicester, Southampton did 11 straight seasons. Leicester did 8 straight seasons, won the title, won the FA Cup, and were in the Champions League or whatever it was. You're miles apart. And it's when you realise that the great Ipswich Town of Sir Alf Ramsey and Sir Bobby Robson and Kevin Beattie and the UEFA Cup winners, compared to Bournemouth now. Bournemouth are light years ahead of Ipswich Town. It's just very, very hard. And you would think, name one team, maybe Sunderland as well, but one team who's got a chance, massive fan base, can make loads in commercial income. Leeds should be the ones that should be able to bridge this. But it's, they're gonna go up, and you just have to spend an absolute ton of money with the guarantee of absolutely nothing. Because like you say, we played Crystal Palace in a 6-pointer and it's like, nope, you're not beating Crystal Palace. Absolutely not. Gay and Eze, all their England players, all played well at the same time. And
it's interesting it's interesting how you've done it. Sort of, I mean, aside from Liam Delap, who's having a fantastic season, it does look a little bit like maybe Ipswich have brought in signings of which are going to thrive in the Championship. But, are these signings that will bridge the gap? They're probably not. But Ipswich have probably been quite smart in the fact that, the likelihood is, look, all the numbers will suggest, and they'll suggest if Leeds go up, the numbers are that you will go down. There's an 80-85% chance that you will go down. I think I saw an Opta statistic the other day. And I guess maybe that's the smart way of doing it. It's either that or, like you've just quite rightly said, you go out and bring 30 players in, and you get extremely close to breaching rules, which is going to get you deducted. And if you're Leeds United, we're not favoured in this country. I'm not saying it's all woe is us bad that we wouldn't get a -2. I think we get a -22.
Well deserved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a real conundrum, isn't it, Ben? I think promoted teams are probably finding it harder and harder and harder now.
Well, and even to go back to the Brentford and Brighton example, they lost in the playoffs a couple of times. That's the only way to be close to promotion and not quite getting promoted, which is painful enough. You guys don't like the playoffs, do you? So, I know you've got first-hand experience of that. The way I see it, Conor, is that the chasms are so ridiculous that you have buckets of teams in the hierarchy. So you have the elite teams that no one's going to get anywhere near. Then you have the regular Premier League teams. Then you have the parachute, that next level up where you don't have anywhere near as much money as the rest of the Premier League teams. We've got way more money than the Championship. And I think Ipswich's plan is to guarantee at least they're going to be in that bucket. And you just got to build assets. You're getting 100 million quid TV money. And then even if you're up for one season, you're going to get, 50 million parachute first year and then 30 million or what. So you're going to get 180 million. Someone might know the numbers better than me in the comments.
Is Delap your player now as well?
Oh yes. So that could be a £50 million sale with the ridiculous numbers at the end of the season, because he ain't going to be at Ipswich long, believe you me. But we'll love him for a season, and Godspeed Liam Delap, ole. But did you play against him last year? He wasn't that good for Hull, was he? But
no, I don't think he featured, did he? I think he was injured for the most of it. Yeah.
What a player! You just got to put him with the unicorn manager, and everything's all right, Conor. Hey,
he's just a monster. He's the perfect specimen to play Premier League football. He's just an athlete, isn't he? He's an athlete. He's quick. He's got everything that you need to be a success at that level, really.
I think you just have to build assets, and if you get relegated and you've spent money, but you've got Amari Hutchinson, Leif Davis, Liam Delap, Jack Clark, Jacob Greaves. Okay, you might be selling 2 of those, but that's what then powers things. And then, by the way, if you keep Jack Clark, he's going to get 25 goal contributions. Is
that how it feels now? Is that the feeling amongst Ipswich fans? Just the fact that, look, we may get out of it, and look, we've given ourselves a really good chance, which you have, and there's a genuine conversation about you getting out of it. But worst case scenario, we are built properly for the, we spent 100 million quid, but we are built properly for the Championship if we do go down.
Yeah, and so obviously you want with everything to stay up, but I think everyone realises if you're okay, take out your Bielsa Leeds and your Wilder Sheffield United seasons. If you're a newly promoted EFL team, you're either just going to survive or you're just going to get relegated. And there's probably about a 4-place span for most of them. You're going to be between 19th and 17th, or that doesn't add up. 19, 18, 17, 16th. you knew what I meant, didn't you?
Yeah.
But look, if the long play is okay, you go up, you move yourself into the next bucket, so you're now richer, and not just richer, way richer than all of the teams in the Championship with the stupid TV distributions that we have. But people have heard me rant about that many, many times, and I will now happily be on the right side of it as a fan, having been on the wrong side of it for so many years supporting Ipswich. But could be do you remember when West Brom and Burnley and Charlton did it? It was a 3 or 4 year play, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
You get promoted, you get relegated, you get promoted again, and the second time you got much better chance of surviving. The only problem with that is that involves a season of getting relegated and the season struggling in the Championship again, doesn't it?
And you can't guarantee, what's a post-apocalyptic world with Ipswich without McKenna. It's what it's.
Well, exactly,
things, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you do
sorry
feel
to interrupt, Conor.
Look at
Luton. Sorry, mate. Sorry. Look at Luton. They didn't spend. They kept the money. They're going to spend it on a stadium, and there's no guarantee they'll be back even with the parachute payments, because that money's heading elsewhere. Sorry, make your point. Sorry.
No, you're right, and I think that it's just going up, and I think that's probably the best way of doing it. I think you've just got to consolidate. I think you've got to go up, give yourself the best chance, cream of the crop. Bring in. You got like a Jens Kayus that you brought in, and players of which maybe are on the med circuit. But you've gone very domestic, and you've gone domestic good players as well, which I think will be, we'll do. But the thing is, you lose McKenna, I know it sounds daft and you're going to get a different strategy, but with the players that you've got there, you might lose 2. You might be able to gain a lot of money capital when it comes to those assets, and teams will look at Ipswich's players. Of course they will, but you look at just bringing a bounce manager in. You've got your Scott Parkers in and around, who are probably going to be available again. I know it doesn't sound great going from McKenna to Parker, but with the assets that you've got at this level and the squad level that you've got, you never know, Ben. This time next year, if you're on the Championship, you might have Scott Parker.
Well, and what I always say to football fans is, and I would say this to Ipswich fans, you can't sit here comparing Kieran McKenna to bloody Brian Clough and Liam Delap to Alan Shearer and assume they're going to stay at Ipswich forever, can you? You can't have it. They're either as good as you say and they're going elsewhere, or they're not as good as you say. So I accept the reality of that, Conor.
Although we did go outside the domestic spectrum at one point, and we did get Rafinha, who brought me so much joy. So much joy in my life.
Yeah.
for a little bit, it's arguably the best player in the world at the minute. So yeah, brilliant. But Ben,
have you seen Liam Delap play? Sorry.
Imagine him and Rafinha. Wow. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Ben. Thank you so much for joining. Look, Benjamin Bloom, if you are not aware, what are you doing on this channel and the YouTube circuit? Benjamin Bloom, check him out. YouTube link. Ben's absolutely flying at this moment in time. All of your Championship stuff, make sure you check him out. And he's very kind towards Leeds as well, which is always lovely. He knows where his bread's buttered.
It's a very, very unique club. Yeah, you lot are quite mental, but it's a very, very it's a great one to cover. I've got to say, I've had some great times covering Leeds.
You have, mate. Nice headaches as well for myself doing this on a day. I've done 3 videos today, mate. Four videos, and my head
I
is
do
fried.
feel for you in that bubble of crazy Leeds intensity all the time. I can dip in and out.
That's it, mate. That's it. But I would like to as well advertise a little bit of my own thing going on, everybody. We do now have a second channel up and running. Link in the description below. It is just my name, Conor McGilligan. If you can spell it without the second N, that would be great. We've got a video out there now for you to check out. It's just your general uploads as well. A little bit kind of like what Ben does. I'm dipping my toe into his environment. So make sure you check that out. But yeah, as I say, check out Ben's channel as well. That will be in the link in the description below. Ben, thank you so much for joining me, mate.
Absolute pleasure. And thank you for some lovely comments in there. Thank you, everybody, for getting involved in the chat.
Always, mate. And we will see you in a bit, guys. Cheers.